The Holden Torana was one of Australia's mid-sized car manufacturers during the 1967 to 1980 timeframe, also known for its performance cars because they were Australia's first. In fact, Torana means to fly in Aboriginal. The very first Holden Torana was the HB Series four-cylinder manufactured and released in 1967. This vehicle was very similar to the British version of the Vauxhall Vivas, built and released in the 1960s as well. By 1969 to 1973, Holden upgraded with a new LC and LJ series, which included the six-cylinder vehicle versions and an eight-cylinder version in the LH and LX series by 1974 to 1977. From this point on, the series and models always included a four-cylinder, six-cylinder, and eight-cylinder option. As mentioned before, Holden produced the first Australian performance vehicle with the LC Torana GTR XU1. This vehicle was manufactured and released in 1970, eventually leading to the release of the Commodore. The Torana has always been Australia's most successful performance vehicle in circuit racing. In the late 1970s, legal obligations due to safety concerns required Holden and other vehicle manufacturers to reduce the V8 engine emissions and vehicle modifications, causing the UC Torana and the Sunbird a downward spiral in production and releases. Eventually, by 1979 and 1980, the Torana and Sunbird were discontinued. Four-cylinder vehicles in Australia became quite popular in the 1960s, and it became apparent the Holden name and this type of vehicle was needed after the British unveiling of the Vauxhall Viva in 1964 in Australia. Sales were not what they were expecting, but in 1967, when Holden released a newer version of the Vauxhall Viva, under its name with a few tune-ups, the new Torana was producing and selling well against its competitors. Many Aussies enjoyed the change and movement from the family sedan, allowing for multiple options. The sporty thrill of this car gave drivers a fun ride, and the four-speed box was a great addition, allowing for more power and movement. During this time frame, sport and performance cars became quite popular as well. General Motors began developing a four-cylinder performance vehicle to compete with the Mini Coopers and Ford Cortina GT 500. This led Jack Brabham, a racer and expert in the field, to become involved in the first performance-oriented Torana vehicle. Although he did not develop the concept, his name did get put on the new racing vehicle. That may not have been the best decision of his life because of its lackluster performance. The Brabham was a stock Torana with performance-oriented parts such as twin Strombergs, air cleaners, front disc brakes, and an exhaust system with triple resonators. Unfortunately, its top speed reached a maximum of 85 miles per hour, which barely competed with other vehicles. However, it was the first performance vehicle for the Torana, so lessons were learned and they would carry forward. As the 1970s approached, performance, vehicle enthusiasts grew, and Holden produced one of the most important vehicles of its time with a six-cylinder Torana. In late 1969, a press release was made public with the new LC Torana GTR. A gorgeous two-door red inline-six, 161 motor with a four-speed gearbox that included front disc brakes, instrumentation, and a gorgeous body style. The GTR was converted into a quick performance vehicle with top speeds reaching 105 miles per hour. In fact, the stock version of the car could reach 105 miles per hour and 90 miles per hour in third gear in only 17.2 seconds. The GTR had twin exhaust with air cleaner, manifolds, and exhaust valves with springs. The Holden Torana LC GTR was finally right in line with its competitors, such as the 253 GTS and the Monaros in performance, comfort and price. Holden was getting closer and closer to beating the Monaro at Bathurst, and the range of vehicles being produced by Holden were becoming more popular with loads of excitement. Holden was manufacturing and releasing its new lineup quicker than its competitors, such as the XU1 version of the GTR. The Torana GTR set the stage for the Torana to compete and redefine performance cars in Australia. The GTR was different from most other performance cars in that it remained small and compact on the inside, removing the need for extra sedan room like other performance cars. The difference in Holden's performance cars is that they were in fact different from the other sedans. For example, the Monaro was nothing more than a standard Kingswood package with a few upgrades. Holden did a fantastic job of setting apart the performance from the sedans. Holden's next move was the release of the XU1 9 months later, manufacturing 700 cars initially. The XU1 was even faster than the GTR, hitting top speeds of 125 miles per hour in only 16 seconds. This vehicle was specifically designed for racing, ensuring that its engine and parts were built for it. The only part of the engine that was weak was the gearbox, which still used the 4-speed Opel from the first Holden released in 1967. Other than that, the vehicle had everything it would need to win on the circuit. Additional changes were made to the LCXU1 with a better clutch, thicker disc brakes on the front, a better head, new pistons, and a higher lift cam. This allowed for over 6,000 RPM. The additions were upgraded just in time for the 1971 Bathurst race. Several XU1 raced at Bathurst, leading to 3 vehicles in the top 10 with a 4th place, 8th place and 10th place ticket in the race. Soon after this, by the fall of 1972, a new version of the XU1 was released with the LCXU1. Some physical modifications were made with a rectangle grille, back-end changes and additional interior upgrades. However, most of the changes were mechanical with a new 4-speed 202 engine, including triple Stromberg carburetors, which equaled 190 brake horsepower. These changes did not make the vehicle any faster, but did ensure a smoother ride. However, the LJ version of the XU1 was more of a performance racer. The Torana XU2 was the next generation of XU1 that would have been produced as a XU1 with a V8 engine dubbed the XU1 V8. In June of 1972, public outrage led to controversy relating to supercars and performance cars because the manufacturers were trying to create cars that would reach top speeds of 160 miles per hour. Unfortunately, a ban caused Holden to move away from the XU1 V8, leading to its demise. With Holden not being able to use the prototype XU1 at Bathurst in 1972, a 202 engine was used with a few changes, allowing Peter Brock to drive to a very close victory. In 1973 and 1974, the XU1 was revamped with some changes to the exhaust, the head and valves. By the time Bathurst came around, the engine included better components and the brakes were improved. The next series of Holden Torana featured the LH. The LH SLR 5000 was the V8 version of the vehicle, which included a 5.0-litre engine. However, it was not any faster or powerful than the XU1. In fact, it was only 0.1 second faster and ran 15.9 seconds on a quarter-mile track. However, it was a comfortable ride with great handling and quiet as compared to its predecessor. The goal of this vehicle was slightly different than that of the XU1. Those that were looking for more of a performance vehicle were not happy with the steering and lack of road feel, but the political climate and performance car regulations changed the state of cars to come. The L34 was introduced as a supped-up version of the SLR 5000 with more power and durability in 1975. This option had bigger tyres and rims, engine valves, twin headers, and a 5.0 V8 308 block that was fast. Additional options were available such as a Holly 4-barrel and hot cam and other luxuries. Although the original version did not meet the original expectations, another version was produced in 1977 in the LX Torana series called the A9X. The A9X included 4-wheel disc brakes and a hatchback version of the model. Although a nice ride and a gorgeous vehicle, the A9X hatchback was not exactly practical. The Torana turned another corner in February of 1977 with the unveiling of the LX, which included RTS. GMH's Chuck Chapman, Peter Hannenberger and Joe Weitzel helped introduce this vehicle handling system, which gave the Australian sedans what they needed to give them near-precise driving ability. RTS included changing the pivot points on both the upper and lower suspension arms of the vehicle, giving it more control. The coils were upgraded and the starring ratio was downgraded for less effort. This allowed both the 6-cylinder and 8-cylinder sedans a much more cleaner ride. The A9X was manufactured in late 1977 with a 5.0-litre engine with rear disc brakes, an air scoop, flares, either an M21 or T10 Borg-Warner gearbox, allowing the A9X to reach speeds of up to 128 miles per hour in roughly 16 seconds on a quarter-mile track. This was one of the best Holden Torana production vehicles. It is known as a classic and sold for an astonishing $11,000 as a hatchback or four-door. It was one of the best Australian supercars during the 1960s and 1970s, allowing them to compete with the rest of the world. The Torana would offer cheaper models earlier on, such as the HB and the second-generation LC and LJs. The Holden Torana HB was cheaper than most vehicles on the market during its time, making it much more economical for families. It became quite popular among Australians. The SL version of the HB was a bit more stylish due to TV advertising and some additional physical modifications to the model. The first GTR came in the LC two-door version. This GTR had full instrumentation, distinct physical details with louvers on the fenders, wheel covers and bright paint. Under the hood were front disc brakes, suspension, shock absorbers and a roll bar. It was an excellent move forward towards the third generation of vehicles. The third generation models would lead to performance car legends remaining popular and famous today. The A9X and XU1 are still famous and sought after in the racing industry. The LH version included the LH-L34 SLR 5000 and SL 5000 automatic. This performance car truly dominated the race circuit and set itself apart from its predecessors and other manufacturers. The hatchback and Sunbird were the last vehicles in the Holden lineup, and although popular, the Sunbird just did not quite live up to the past. The Sunbird did not feel like a Torana, but how could it with the demise of performance cars and the regulations that were required on vehicles in 1975 to 1976? Well, there you have it. The Aussie legend of the 60s. Have you had any experiences with this baddie? Comment down below and let's discuss. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button to keep you updated on our future uploads. Until then, I'll catch you on the next one.